I found out on a Thursday. That detail shouldn't matter, but somehow it does. Thursday has never felt the same since. Every Thursday for the past 15 years, there's this weight that settles on me around mid-morning. This phantom ache that reminds me of the day I discovered my wife was sleeping with someone else and decided to do nothing about it. I'm 65 years old now, and that decision, the decision to stay, to forgive, to pretend we could move past it, is the biggest mistake of my life. Not because she cheated. People cheat. Marriages survive infidelity all the time. No, my mistake was staying for the wrong reasons. Staying because leaving felt too hard. Staying because I was more afraid of being alone than I was of being disrespected. Staying because comfort, even poisoned comfort, felt safer than the unknown. Let me take you back to that Thursday in 2009. I was 50 years old, married to Carol for 23 years. We had 2 kids in college, a nice house in the suburbs, a golden retriever named Murphy. From the outside, we looked like the American dream. Inside, we'd been coasting for years. Not unhappy exactly, but not particularly happy either. Just comfortable, familiar, easy. I came home early that day. My afternoon meeting had been canceled, and I decided to surprise Carol, maybe take her out to lunch. She'd been complaining that we never did anything spontaneous anymore, and I thought this would be a nice gesture. The irony of that still stings. Her car was in the driveway. So was a silver Lexus I didn't recognize. I remember standing there, keys in hand, staring at that car. Some part of me knew, not consciously, not yet, but some primal instinct was already sounding alarms, telling me to turn around, to leave, to preserve the comfortable lie I'd been living. I went inside anyway. The house was quiet, too quiet. Murphy wasn't barking his usual greeting. I called out Carol's name. No answer. I walked through the kitchen, the living room, toward the bedroom. And that's when I heard it. Sounds no husband should ever have to hear coming from his own bedroom. I should have left right then. Should have walked out, called a lawyer, started divorce proceedings. That's what self-respecting men do, right? They don't tolerate betrayal. They don't accept disrespect. They leave. But I didn't leave. I stood in that hallway like a statue, paralyzed by shock and humiliation, and something else I didn't want to name: relief. Relief that the vague dissatisfaction I'd been feeling for years now had a concrete cause. Relief that the problem was her behavior, not some fundamental flaw in me or in our marriage. I made noise. Lots of it. Dropped my keys, coughed loudly, called Carol's name again, giving them time to, what? Get dressed, get their story straight. Even in my devastation, I was being considerate. That should have been my first clue about how this was going to end. Carol came out of the bedroom in her robe, her face flushed, her hair disheveled. Behind her, I could hear someone moving around, getting dressed. She looked at me, and I watched her expression cycle through emotions. Shock, fear, guilt, calculation. "Walter, you're home early." That's what she said. Not "I'm sorry," not "I can explain." Just an observation about my unexpected presence in my own home. Who is he? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Calm, flat, like I was asking about the weather. Walter, who is he? The bedroom door opened and a man stepped out. Younger than me by maybe 10 years, fit, wearing an expensive suit. He had the decency to look uncomfortable at least. "I'm David," he said, extending his hand like we were at a networking event. "I work with Carol." I didn't shake his hand, just stared at it until he lowered it awkwardly. "You need to leave," I said. He looked at Carol. She nodded. He grabbed his briefcase and walked past me, and I let him go. Didn't punch him, didn't threaten him, didn't do any of the things men supposedly do in these situations. Just let him walk out of my house, out of my life, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage. After he left, Carol and I stood there in silence. Murphy had slunk into the room, sensing the tension, and was pressing himself against my leg. I reached down and pet him, grateful for something normal to do with my hands. "How long?" I finally asked. "Walter, how long, Carol?" 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of her coming home from work, smelling like another man. Half a year of me being a fool. "Do you love him?" She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "I don't know. Maybe. It's complicated." It's complicated. The universal excuse for inexcusable behavior. It's complicated, so I'm allowed to hurt you. It's complicated, so I'm not really responsible for my choices. "I think you should pack a bag," I said. "Stay somewhere else tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." I expected her to argue. Instead, she nodded and went back to the bedroom. 20 minutes later, she was gone. And I was alone in my house, with a dog and a broken marriage, and no idea what to do next. That night was the longest of my life. I didn't eat, didn't sleep, just sat in the living room with a glass of scotch I didn't drink, staring at the wall, trying to process what had happened. My wife had cheated on me, with a colleague, for 6 months, in our bed. The humiliation was suffocating. I kept thinking about all the times I'd kissed her hello when she came home from work, tasting another man on her lips without knowing it. All the times I'd made love to her while she was thinking about him. All the times I'd told friends how solid our marriage was, while being the only one who didn't know it was falling apart. I called my brother Paul around 3 a.m. He answered groggily, already concerned. I never called that late. "Carol's having an affair," I said without preamble. Silence. Then, "Jesus, Walt, are you okay?" "I don't know what to do." "You leave her, that's what you do." 23 years, Paul. The kids, the house, everything we've built. She destroyed that when she slept with someone else. This isn't on you. But it felt like it was on me. That's the thing they don't tell you about infidelity. Even when you're the victim, you feel guilty. What did I do wrong? Was I not attentive enough? Not romantic enough? Not good enough in bed? The betrayal makes you question everything about yourself. Carol came back the next day. We sat at the kitchen table, that same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, where we'd helped our kids with homework, where we'd planned vacations and discussed finances and lived our comfortable, unremarkable life. She cried. God, did she cry. Said she was sorry, that it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. Then said maybe it did mean something, but she was confused. Then said she wanted to work on our marriage, that she'd end it with David, that she'd do whatever it took to earn back my trust. Why? I asked. Why did you do it? She was quiet for a long time. Then, I felt invisible, like I was just playing a role in your life, not actually living in it. You were always working, always tired, always focused on the next thing. I felt like we were roommates who occasionally had sex, not partners, not lovers. The accusation stung because it wasn't entirely wrong. I had been working a lot. We had gotten comfortable, complacent. Sex had become routine, infrequent. We'd stopped really talking, really connecting. But did that justify what she'd done? So instead of talking to me about it, you slept with someone else? I know it was wrong. I'm not trying to justify it. But Walter, we've been drifting for years. You know we have. I did know. That was the worst part. I'd felt it too. That slow dissolution of intimacy. That gradual transformation from lovers to co-parents to co-inhabitants. But I'd been comfortable with it. Content, even. I hadn't needed passion and romance. I'd needed stability and familiarity. Carol wanted more, and instead of demanding it from me, she'd found it elsewhere. "What do you want?" I asked. "Do you want a divorce?" "No. God, no. I want us. I want to fix this. I want to remember why we fell in love in the first place. And David? It's over. I swear. I'll quit my job if I have to. I'll do anything." I should have said no. Should have told her it was too late. The damage was done. Trust once broken can't be fully repaired. But I didn't. Because sitting across from her, seeing her cry, feeling the weight of our shared history, the kids, the house, the life we'd built together, leaving felt impossible. So I said, okay, we'd try. We'd go to counseling. We'd work on it. That was 15 years ago, and it's the decision I regret most in my life. The counseling started the following week. Dr. Patricia Barnes, a marriage therapist recommended by Carol's sister. She had kind eyes and a calm voice, and absolutely no idea what she was getting into. In our first session, she asked us to each describe what we wanted from therapy. Carol said she wanted to rebuild trust, to reconnect, to fall in love again. I said I wanted to understand how to forgive her. Dr. Barnes nodded like these were compatible goals. They weren't. Over the following months, Carol did everything right. She quit her job. She gave me access to her email and phone. She came home straight after work from her new job. She initiated date nights, planned romantic gestures, tried to seduce me with the enthusiasm she'd probably been giving David. And I tried. God knows I tried. I went through the motions of forgiveness. I said the right things in therapy. I accepted her apologies. I made love to her when she wanted it, even though the whole time I was wondering if she was comparing me to him, if I measured up, if she was fantasizing about him while touching me. But something had broken inside me that Thursday afternoon, and no amount of counseling or apologies or romantic gestures could fix it. Every time I looked at Carol, I saw her coming out of that bedroom in her robe. Every time she touched me, I thought about her touching him. Every time she said, "I love you," I heard, "For 6 months I betrayed you, and you were too stupid to notice." Trust, once shattered, doesn't heal. It scabs over. And underneath that scab, the wound festers. Our kids found out about 6 months after it happened. Our daughter, Sarah, was home from college for Thanksgiving when she overheard Carol and me arguing about her old colleague. Sarah confronted us, demanded the truth, and Carol broke down and told her everything. Sarah was furious, at both of us, but especially at Carol. "How could you do that to Dad?" she kept saying. Our son Michael, when he found out, didn't speak to his mother for 3 months. A kid's reactions made me realize something. By staying with Carol, I wasn't just accepting her betrayal for myself. I was modeling for my children that infidelity was forgivable, that disrespect was acceptable, that sometimes you just swallow your dignity and carry on. What kind of lesson was that? But by then, it felt too late to leave. We'd been to counseling. We'd told everyone we were working through it. We'd recommitted to each other in front of Dr. Barnes. Walking away after all that effort would feel like giving up, like admitting defeat. So I stayed. And with each year that passed, staying became more entrenched, more impossible to reverse. The affair became that thing that happened years ago, something we didn't talk about, a closed chapter that we all pretended to have moved past. Except I hadn't moved past it. Not even close. The anger I couldn't express in healthy ways came out in petty ones. I'd make cutting remarks disguised as jokes. I'd bring up the affair during arguments about completely unrelated things. I'd punish Carol in small, constant ways, withholding affection, being deliberately distant, making her feel the rejection I felt. It was toxic. I was toxic, but I couldn't stop because the alternative was admitting that I'd made a mistake by staying, and I'd invested too much in the decision to back out now. Carol tried, for a few years. She tried to be patient with my anger, understanding of my distance, accepting of my punishment. But eventually, she stopped trying. She became resentful of my inability to truly forgive her, frustrated with my constant reminders of her mistake, tired of living with someone who'd stayed but never really let her back in. Our marriage became a cold war, polite in public, tense in private. We slept in the same bed but might as well have been in different states. We had conversations about logistics but never about feelings. We coexisted, but we didn't live together. Not really. And the worst part, we both knew it. We both felt the deadness of our relationship. But we were both too stubborn, too invested, too afraid of change to do anything about it. I'm 65 now. Carol is 63. We're still married, technically. Still living in the same house. Still going through the motions of a partnership that died 15 years ago. Our kids are adults, with families of their own. Sarah has 2 daughters and a husband who adores her. She's built a marriage based on communication and honesty, the opposite of what she saw growing up. Michael is engaged to a wonderful woman, and he's told me privately that he'll never tolerate what I tolerated, that he respects himself too much to stay with someone who betrays him. I'm proud of them for learning from my mistakes, and ashamed that my mistakes were the lesson they needed. Last month, I had a health scare. Chest pains that turned out to be nothing serious. Just stress and age catching up with me. But lying in that hospital bed, waiting for test results, I had a moment of clarity. I didn't want Carol there. When the nurse asked who to call, I hesitated before giving her Carol's number. And when Carol showed up, hovering anxiously, asking the doctor's questions, playing the concerned wife, I felt nothing. No comfort in her presence. No gratitude for her concern. Just a dull awareness that she was there out of obligation. Same as I'd been present in our marriage for the last 15 years. The doctor said I needed to reduce stress, eat better, exercise more, find ways to relax. As if the primary source of stress in my life wasn't the woman sitting next to my hospital bed. The woman I'd tied myself to out of fear and stubbornness, and a misguided belief that staying was noble. We drove home in silence. I looked out the window at the familiar streets of the neighborhood we'd lived in for 30 years. Good schools, safe sidewalks, and memories that seemed both distant and impossibly close. Neighbors who'd watched our kids grow up. I'd stayed here too, stayed in this job, this house, this life, even though I'd outgrown all of it years ago. I'd spent the last 15 years staying in a dead marriage, staying comfortable, staying safe. And I'd called it commitment, called it strength, called it doing the right thing. But really, it was cowardice. That night, after Carol went to bed, I sat in my study and thought about that Thursday 15 years ago. About the man I'd been, standing in that hallway, listening to his wife with another man. About the choice I'd made to give her another chance. I'd told myself I was being mature, being forgiving, being committed to my vows, to my family, to the life we'd built. But the truth was simpler and more pathetic. I was scared. Scared of being alone at 50. Scared of dating again. Scared of splitting assets and dividing holidays and becoming a divorced dad. Scared of admitting to everyone that my marriage had failed. So I stayed, and I told myself it was the right choice, the strong choice, the choice a good man makes. But a good man doesn't punish his partner for 15 years. A good man doesn't stay in a relationship while withholding all real intimacy and connection. A good man doesn't model dysfunction for his children and call it commitment. A good man either truly forgives or truly leaves. He doesn't do this half-measure thing where he stays but makes everyone miserable. I called my brother Paul the next morning. First time we'd really talked in months. He answered cheerfully, asking about the health scare. relieved to hear it was nothing serious. Paul, I need to tell you something. What's up? You were right. 15 years ago, when you said I should leave Carol, you were right. Silence on the other end. Then, Walt, what are you saying? I'm saying I made a mistake. I stayed for the wrong reasons. I stayed because I was scared. And I've wasted 15 years being miserable and making Carol miserable and pretending it was noble. It's not too late. Isn't it? I'm 65 years old. I've got maybe 20 good years left, if I'm lucky. And I've already wasted 15 of them. So don't waste the next 20. After we hung up, I sat with that thought. Don't waste the next 20. What would that even look like? Divorce at 65, starting over when most people my age are thinking about retirement and grandchildren? But what was the alternative? Another 20 years of this cold, dead marriage? Another 20 years of sleeping next to someone I resent, while she sleeps next to someone who won't forgive her? Growing old together, while growing more bitter and distant? That sounded like a different kind of waste. I've started seeing a therapist again. Not a marriage counselor this time, just a therapist for me. Dr. Robert Kim, a man in his 50s who specializes in midlife transitions. I told him everything in our first session. The affair, the decision to stay, the 15 years of slow motion misery. Why did you really stay? He asked. I told you. The kids, the house, the history. No, those are the reasons you told yourself. Why did you really stay? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Because leaving would have meant admitting I wasn't enough. That she needed something I couldn't provide. That our marriage had been failing for years before the affair. The affair was a symptom, not the disease. And I couldn't face that. And now I'm 65 and I've spent 15 years proving I was enough by making both of us miserable. So I guess I still can't face it. Dr. Kim nodded. The affair wasn't your fault, Walter. But what you've done with the last 15 years, that is your responsibility. You chose to stay, but you never chose to truly forgive or truly heal. You've been in limbo, and you've kept Carol there with you. So what do? You decide. Really decide. Either commit to truly forgiving her and rebuilding, which would require real work, real vulnerability, real letting go of the past, or you leave and give both of you a chance to find happiness elsewhere. At 65, life doesn't end at 65, Walter. Some of the happiest people I know found love in their 60s and 70s. But they had to be brave enough to leave unhappy situations first. I haven't told Carol yet that I'm in therapy. Haven't told her I'm considering divorce. We still have our polite, surface conversations. She asks about my doctor's orders. I ask about her day at work. We discuss what to have for dinner and whether we need to call the plumber. We look like a married couple. We sound like a married couple. But we're not. We're two people who made different mistakes that happened to intersect. She cheated. I stayed for the wrong reasons. And we've been paying for those mistakes ever since. Last week was our 38th anniversary. Carol made reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date. A nice gesture, trying to recapture something we'd lost decades ago. I went along with it because that's what I do. Go along, stay quiet, maintain the facade. Over dinner, she reached across the table and took my hand. 38 years, she said. We've been through a lot. We have. I know things haven't been easy since that time, but I'm glad we stuck it out. I'm glad we didn't give up. I looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. She'd aged, obviously. Gray hair she colored to hide it, lines around her eyes and mouth. But she was still attractive, still took care of herself. She could have found someone else, probably. Started over. But she'd stayed too. Why? Was she as scared as I was? As comfortable in our dysfunction? Or did she actually love me, actually want this marriage, and I was too walled off to see it? Carol, are you happy? The question clearly caught her off guard. What? Are you happy? In this marriage? In this life? Are you actually happy? She pulled her hand back. That's a strange question for our anniversary. It's a simple question. Nothing is simple with us anymore, Walter. You know that. Then let me ask a different question. If you could go back to that Thursday 15 years ago, would you make a different choice? I would never cheat on you, if that's what you're asking. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you'd choose differently about what happened after, about us staying together. She stared at me for a long time. Then quietly, would you? And there it was, the question I'd been avoiding for 15 years. Would I make a different choice? Yes. I said, I think I would. ... We finished dinner in silence. Drove home in silence. That night we slept in the same bed, back to back. Miles of emotional distance between us, despite the inches of physical space. I'm writing this now at my desk in my study, while Carol sleeps upstairs. It's 3 a.m, and I can't sleep because I'm finally being honest with myself about what I need to do. I need to leave. Not because Carol cheated 15 years ago, but because I stayed for the wrong reasons and never corrected that mistake. I stayed out of fear and inertia and pride, and I've spent 15 years punishing both of us for it. I'm 65 years old. If I'm lucky, I have 20 good years left, maybe 30. And I don't want to spend them like this, in a marriage that's really a prison, with a woman I resent for choices she made 15 years ago, and choices I made every day since. Carol deserves better too. She deserves a partner who's actually present, actually loving, actually able to forgive. She made a terrible mistake, but she paid for it. God knows she paid for it. 15 years of living with someone who stayed, but never really came back. 15 years of being reminded, in countless small ways, that she was the one who broke us. Maybe apart, we can both finally heal. Maybe apart, we can both find some version of happiness. Maybe it's too late for romance and passion and grand love affairs, but maybe it's not too late for peace. I'm going to talk to Carol tomorrow. Really talk, not the surface conversations we've been having for years. I'm going to tell her that staying was a mistake, that I made that mistake out of fear, not love, that I've spent 15 years proving I was strong enough to weather her betrayal, when what I should have done was be strong enough to leave. I'm gonna tell her I want a divorce. I don't know how she'll react. Relief, maybe, or anger that I'm ending things now, after she's put in 15 years of trying to make it up to me. Maybe sadness for the life we could have had if we'd both been braver back then. But whatever she feels, it's time, past time. My biggest mistake wasn't staying after she cheated. My biggest mistake was staying without truly forgiving, without truly committing to rebuilding, without doing the real work of healing. I stayed in the worst possible way, physically present, but emotionally absent, a ghost haunting our marriage. If I could go back to that Thursday in 2009, I'd do it differently. I'd feel the pain, the humiliation, the heartbreak, and then I'd leave. I'd start over. I'd find out who Walter was outside of this broken marriage. But I can't go back. All I can do is stop wasting time now. Stop choosing comfort over authenticity. Stop being so afraid of being alone that I accept being lonely in company. I'm 65 years old, and I'm about to leave my wife 15 years too late. That's my story. That's my confession. That's the truth I've been running from for a decade and a half. I stayed after she cheated. That was my biggest mistake. But leaving now, finally, after all this time, maybe that can be my redemption. The sun is starting to come up. I can see the first hints of light through my study window. In a few hours, Carol will wake up and come downstairs for coffee. We'll have that conversation I've been avoiding for 15 years. And then finally, I'll do what I should have done on that Thursday in 2009. I'll leave. Not in anger, not in hatred, not to punish her, just to stop punishing both of us. Just to give us both a chance at whatever time we have left. Better late than never, I suppose. Though in my case, it's very, very late. But maybe not too late. Maybe there's still time for both of us to figure out what happiness looks like without each other. Maybe there's still time to be honest about what we need, what we want, who we actually are when we stop playing roles in a dead marriage. Maybe there's still time to respect myself enough to stop accepting less than I deserve. Maybe there's still time to be brave. I'm going to find out.